Hey, Brian here. Welcome back to Logistics and Leadership. On today's episode, we are interviewing CEO of Warehouse on Wheels, Jonathan Brooks. They've grown from just a couple of sites to 40 across North America and save millions for their customers while doing it. We talk leadership, culture, and what extreme ownership really means out in the field. It's a killer conversation. Let's jump in. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining the Logistics and Leadership podcast. I know that we originally met a couple years ago at the Fast 55 event. For those that don't know, it's an event here in Cincinnati that recognizes the top 55 companies that are growing the fastest year over year. Coincidentally, Warehouse on Wheels and Veritas, they happen to be paired up pretty close together in the alphabet. So we sat right next to one another in the kind of in the line there. So. Thanks for coming on the show, man. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me, man. Really enjoy it, and looking forward to it. So yeah, it was just fate, the alphabet had us. So very nice to meet you, and looking forward to this discussion.
That's great. Well, I guess you have a long track record, a long history. I know, especially with your background, being in finance, and as a leader. Tell us a little bit more about yourself. Where you've been, some things along the way, where you currently sit today, and what's most important to you.
Gotcha. Now, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version.
Yeah,
Cut my teeth at Arthur Anderson through the whole collapse. I
yeah,
was rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic as that thing was going down. Never worked on Enron or WorldCom, but nonetheless, it was kind of like a death in the family. Quite honestly, it was a pretty
sure.
impactful thing on my career. But um, as the good Lord would have it, I was actually working on my MBA at Notre Dame at the time.
Okay.
Because I knew at Anderson I was going to have to move to a bigger city, most likely to make partner. So, I always wanted to go to Notre Dame. I say they didn't want me as an undergrad because I wasn't smart enough, but they took my money as a grad student. So,
Yeah.
got the MBA, met a guy there, got my first CFO gig out of that. So as Anderson was collapsing, they needed a CFO, their first CFO, and joined a small business, which is really where I got my hands wet in operations. So my
Yeah.
CFO role kind of morphed to COO. And then from there, really went on this journey where I've worked for 7 different private equity firms in a CFO, COO capacity. I like to say the good, the bad, and the ugly. We'll leave that for another podcast.
Sure.
But really found my way through that space and had some success. I had a lot of lumps on my head too. Probably I got fired a time or two in that whole experience, so learned from that. And then, as fate would have it, in around 2018, I met some guys that had the same vision I did for this business, Warehouse on Wheels. I was trying to buy the local company that we now own called Fitz, or First in Trailer Service. And these other guys had just bought the Meisler business in Evansville. And so we got paired together. We shared the vision for what it could be. And so we started with 2 locations and 4,000 trailers. Today, we stand at just shy of 40 locations and 40,000 trailers.
Wow.
We're currently serving markets from Montreal, Quebec to Monterrey, Mexico, and
Yeah.
then throughout all the major transportation lanes here in the US, with a vision to really grow the business to 100 locations and 100,000 trailers.
Okay.
That's the flight plan we have. We've done that through about 25 acquisitions. We've purchased probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 10,000 or so trailers just organically. And our business is pretty simple. We take trailers when transportation firms are done with them. So
Yeah.
about year 10, we give them a fresh coat of paint, fresh branding, fresh federal, and then we rent them into the supply chains of any number of people, 7,000 customers to be
Oh, wow.
exact. And our solution, really, the value for everyone is we're about 4 times less expensive than fixed warehouse space, depending
Okay.
on the geography you're in. So if you look over the last 12 months, for example, we've saved our customers north of $100 million
Oh,
in
wow.
compared to fixed warehouse space. And in the world of tariffs and
Yeah.
constant inflation, it really does show up as a cost savings value add solution. So
Oh,
we're very proud of that. It's a niche we play in because the leasing guys like to play at the new end of the spectrum. So
uh-huh.
shiny new, lease it for 5 to 7 years. That's their specialty, and they're really, really good at it. But no one is playing dedicated at the storage and local cartage level the way we are, and we like that space.
That's awesome. It's a pretty good value proposition, right? If we can save you,
Mhm.
4
Yeah.
times the amount that you're spending today, I mean, I feel like how do you ever lose a sale? Is there ever an opportunity that you lose a sale there or what?
Well, I think it depends on where you catch them in the life cycle. So when everybody's out of space, if
Sure.
somebody at corporate's already approved the new warehouse lease or the new space, then probably becomes more of a challenge because you've already
Yeah,
signed on the dotted line kind of thing. But as long as we can stay top of mind and in front of folks, it's part of the challenge we have commercially is
yeah,
w- we're not something you plan for. Guys aren't sitting here and saying, you know what, I bet in March we're going to have a bunch of containers come in and we're not going to have anywhere to put them.
right.
So we're going to rack up detention fees or we're
Yeah,
going to be out of space or whatever. And so we need to be ready like that. And that's why we really ground our philosophy in what we call the Ritz Carlton service at the Hampton Inn price.
love it.
So you're going to get white glove, customer intimate, quick response. We're going to have a trailer there in a matter of hours
Yeah,
to meet your needs, and we're going to ask a reasonable price for it.
yeah.
We don't need to be the top of the list, but we don't want to be the bottom. And so that's really how we sort of ground our behaviors, our customer facing efforts.
Yeah, that's awesome. We've handed, we'll go out and see a handful of shipper clients per year, and a
Hmm.
lot of them do have trailers on the side. And a lot of them,
Right.
instead of having that additional space, they'll have anywhere from 2 to 5 trailers sitting out there. And in our world, it's more of a refrigeration
Sure.
units, right? So the reefer
Right.
units are on, the running, and it gives them just that a little bit of ability. Hey, I need to store 20 pallets. Put them in here for
Right.
a few hours until somebody picks them up. So I think that's great. I'm sure I feel this over the past, 10, 12 years. I've been in the logistics industry since 2009. And I
Hmm.
really feel like Amazon has changed the game in terms of trailers,
Hmm.
where we as a consumer, we're so used to getting that product within 2 days or whatever the Amazon Prime subscription is, where you
Right.
have to have products all over the country to get it
Right.
to that end user in 2 days. I mean, I
Hmm.
remember I ordered something a couple weeks ago and it said like 7 to 10 business days. And I'm like, "Man, like that's
Yeah.
like I haven't seen that in years, right?" And I really feel like Amazon has changed the space because
Hmm.
everybody's looking out getting local, regional type of warehouse distribution. They have to
Right.
spend money on that warehouse. Now, your offering or your company gives them an opportunity to, I'm getting the warehouse space, maybe not as much, but it's
Hmm.
flexible. You don't have to sign a long-term lease or have the ability to be
Right.
locked in for multiple years in a row. Or hell, in some scenarios, people are building these years in advance.
No, you're exactly right. And
Yeah.
so that proximity to the customer is something we help satisfy. The other thing is with the lack of predictability. I mean, who
Hmm.
knows what the next 6 months is gonna hold? We're
Hmm.
one tweet away from the supply chain being disrupted again. I mean, literally as we're recording this and the meetings are going on in China, the next tweet that comes out of those meetings or the result of those meetings could throw a real wrench into the m material portions of the supply chain.
Yeah.
And so to commit to a warehouse when we offer this solution, which is far more economical and flexible, 30-day evergreen contract. So if you're done with it in 30 days, we take it
Wow.
back, no problem. So you're in and out of these things. The other great thing, I was just giving a talk down in Nashville to some supply chain folks, and I took a member of my advisory board with me. He's a former Toyota executive, and they have been using our solution at one of their plants for over 20 years. So Toyota is viewed as one of the world class manufacturers. I mean,
Mhm.
when it comes to operations, they're the guys that wrote the book.
Yeah.
And for them to embrace our solution for over 2 decades, I love telling that story because it's a testament to it's not just some gimmicky solution. It's not just some short term thing. These guys literally have been our partners for that long and on a material scale.
Yeah.
So I think that's very telling to the solution we bring.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I think that's, when you're sifting through or going through companies like yourself, who do we choose? It's a company that has a track record with a name brand like Toyota, I think is
Right.
a huge feather in your cap. So kudos to you there.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So I know something that we talked about a little bit earlier, and something that, I've followed you on social as well for a little bit.
Hmm.
And I know culture. is a big thing in your company. I know that you're adamant about it. I do think sometimes that culture just gets a label slapped on it, right? Where it's like a ping pong table and an event or an outing, and it's free lunch Friday or whatever they call it. And
Right.
man, I am so against, the kind of the quote unquote culture in organizations. And I feel, I'm passionate about the culture in our company, in our group, where it's about the feeling you get, in my opinion, as opposed to kind of the perks or the benefits of, this and that. I know culture is important to you.
Mhm.
Tell me more about that. Why is it so important? Why is it something that you spend a lot of time on?
Yeah. So let's start at the beginning. So as we designed the organization and what we were going to build here, we were committed to the fact that we wanted general managers in our markets to be what I called, and I still call them this today, local market CEOs. So I need them to hire, fire, buy, and sell all day long. I need them to run that market about a 150-mile radius of a given city. So take Cincinnati, for example,
Yeah.
and they got to own it. And we're going to structure it in this way from a reward standpoint. We're going to give them market based comp. They're going to get a bonus that's derived discretely off their location's performance with no corporate overhead, no allocations, any of that kind of stuff. And then they all have equity in the business.
Oh,
So
wow.
they're all owners. So if that's the culture or that's the structure I need, the culture I need, then I felt needed to be grounded in the concepts of extreme ownership. I actually met Jocko and Leif right about the time the book was being released. So
No way.
that was about 10 years ago.
It's
And
awesome.
I walk into this dinner and I'm late and it's like a private equity sponsored dinner. And there's one seat left between these two guys that look like they're from Central Casting out of a military film, or they're bodyguards for some of these CEOs I was with. I don't know. So I sit down between them and they start telling me stories about Ramadi and their experiences. And at that time, too, it was Chris Kyle, an American Sniper, had
Yeah.
come out, and Leif was his boss. Jocko was Leif's boss. So there was this connection. And then after dinner, they got up and they presented extreme ownership. And I was hooked. I
Yeah.
mean, it probably was one of the first presentations of extreme ownership, I think, because there were typos in the slides, I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But, uh, but I was hooked, and it so supported what I wanted this business to be, because if you believe in those concepts, if you accept that as our foundational language and rules of engagement, we can't not be successful. And so that's really been foundational. And then further to your point about the ping pong tables, the pizza and all that, I hear you. And we do fun stuff from time to time, but
Sure.
whatever. But we measure our engagement. So twice a year, we use the Gallup Q12 questions.
Okay.
And I've been a fan for years. I've used it at a few other stops. So we literally measure on a 5-point scale employee engagement. We benchmark it against our prior periods to see
Okay.
what trends are. We benchmark it against the national averages. But the most valuable part, even beyond that, is we ask three open ended questions. We ask, what's the silliest thing we're doing as an organization? What's the single best idea you have to improve the company? And then what does wow mean to you? And I start with what does wow mean to you? Because that's the stuff that's powerful and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
tells
It's
you
good.
what's going on. And so we do that. We take all of that feedback. Just had this meeting yesterday for the third quarter with all the employees, and we address the open ended responses. So we either
Awesome.
explicitly address them in our meetings, we work them into our newsletter, or we address them through our HRIS tools that we have with
Okay.
the postings and the boards. So to your point, we grounded ourselves in a basic philosophy, extreme ownership, with a sprinkle of humanocracy. It's another concept that talks about a flat organization. Nucor
Sure.
is really well known for their approach to that.
Yeah.
And then we measure it like an operating process. So we're holding ourselves accountable. We post the scores. We tell the world
Wow. That's
it's
great.
it's sort of on the door, if you will, and we own it, and then we go from there.
I mean, that's a great thing to highlight. Like, I think a lot of people talk about the culture and what it means and how do you do it, but measuring it. And I love that you do that. Would you say quarterly?
Well, we were doing it quarterly. Our
Yeah.
employees raised their hand and said, "Hey, can we quit doing so many surveys?" So we do it semi-annually. But what's so great about it,
Yeah.
the one in January, we had 99.9% compliance. One guy, one
Wow.
driver in
Wow.
Canada didn't do it. We had 100% compliance in our
That's
July
awesome.
survey,
I
and
think
so those
so much validation to that too, because I think when
Mhm,
people feel like a part of a group or part of a community,
mhm,
I feel like they are more apt to give that open feedback. And the fact that you're able to give those employees the platform to do it, I think
mhm.
speaks volumes about the culture you wanna create. So,
Yeah, and then I'd say the other thing that really anchors it is, when you come to work for us, you
yeah,
meet with me in the first 30 days, regardless of where you are in the organization, and
sure.
I give you my personal cell phone number,
Oh,
and
that's
I love to
awesome.
say, "This is the one my wife, my kids, and my mama call me on." I don't have a burner, and
Yeah,
so folks take advantage of that, some probably more so than others, but it's just another means to we're 40 locations, people spread out all over the place. I'm not always there, but at the end of the day, I've gotta be accountable for that.
yeah. I love the fact that you talk about the local market CEOs and having that ownership. That's something that I just wrote down a few minutes ago, but
Mhm.
having that ownership within the group and having them own, kind of you said the 150-mile radius of I'm
Right,
owning this decision, that decision, the other decision, where it doesn't have to bubble up to you. It doesn't have to bubble up to senior
right.
leadership to make that decision and slow down the process. I heard a story once upon a time that a old neighbor of mine, he used to work for Ritz Carlton corporate.
Mhm.
And one of the things I forget the amount, but it was every single person within the organization could spend up to a dollar limit. And I think it was
Yeah.
at the time, it was like $1,100 or something, or $800 or something like that. And
Mhm.
every single person within that organization had the authority to make a decision
Yep.
under, I think, $800.
Mhm.
And what happened there is it reduced so much backlog about, well, let me check with my manager. Let me
Right.
get with, for manager for approval. It took all of
Mhm.
that out. It took more, or it gave more ownership to maybe the bellman that had an
Mhm.
issue or a challenge with a driver or something like that. And I just feel like that is something from, their perspective. I mean, we're talking about Ritz Carlton. That's the
Right.
cream of the crop in terms of hospitality, right?
Right.
Um, so I think it just gives a person that's on that level more ownership within the organization, to make some of those decisions.
Absolutely, and one of the other
Yeah.
things we do here is, when you come to work for us, you get a box of some swag, so
Okay.
we look good, play good's kinda how we roll.
Yeah.
I'm not much to look at, but you wanna dress nice. So, we give you a letter, though, in that box called the ultimate expectation,
Okay.
and in that letter, it basically walks you through, you've been hired to do a job. We're excited to have you here, and that job hopefully will evolve and become everything you want it to be.
Yeah.
But also, we've given you a responsibility. If there's a decision that needs to be made in this business that is in our mutual best interest, that makes us safer or takes care of our clients, you have the right and the expectation to make that decision without ever asking.
It's
And
awesome.
so I try to set the tone early on in the team member relationship that you are empowered to make those decisions. So I love what I hadn't I vaguely remember the whole Ritz-Carlton, they could spend some money type
Yeah.
thing. That
Yeah.
lines up totally with that philosophy.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you reminding me of
No,
that.
I think that's it was something that stuck out to me. I mean, we were talking to our neighbor. I think his dog was out or something like that, and we
Mhm.
just happened to have a conversation, and that got brought up. I'm like, oh man, that's impressive.
Yeah.
Um, so, talking about leadership, talking about culture, what happens, within your organization? Because I'm sure nothing ever wrong happens or nothing ever, gray area never comes up. But what
Mhm.
happens when you feel like the culture kind of goes sideways a little bit? What are some of the steps that you take to get it
Mhm.
back on the right track?
Well, first I have to look in the mirror
Okay.
because that's my responsibility.
Yeah, love it.
The title really should be kinda chief cultural officer or chief
Uh-huh.
evangelist of what we're doing. And so if it's off, then there's likely a problem with my communication
Okay.
or, my lack thereof. And so I gotta own that. But the great thing about it is, the empowerment and the way the groups I are all working in that mindset of extreme ownership. It's so self-correcting.
Mhm.
Teams don't need someone like me showing up at a meeting and trying to recalibrate, reset. They're doing that within their own organization, within their own teams. So yes, things go wrong all the time and things happen.
Mhm.
And, when the things get back up to me, I have to take that self reflection and figure out where did I fail from a communication standpoint or whatever the case might be. And then I also have to take a deep breath and realize, okay, nobody died. We're still fine.
Yeah.
And so, learn from it and let's move on.
I love it. Um, one thing I know we chatted about this a little bit earlier when we were, off camera.
Mhm.
And I don't know the full story, so you're gonna have to help me here. But I think you guys just moved into some recent office space, right? Or you moved in a couple years ago, maybe,
Mhm.
and you had the ability to set up the conference room and set up the format. And I know there's certain chairs around the table, and then
Sure.
I think you have like two off-colored chairs or two red chairs.
Mhm.
Is that right? Does that sound about
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay.
the 2 red chairs.
Yeah, I would love for you to tell that story and what it
Mhm.
means and how that drives conversations that happen within that conference room.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for remembering that. When you post on LinkedIn all the time, sometimes you feel like you're just yelling at the
I
wall. So
know.
I don't know, but
It's
thank you
just
for
no,
somebody
I
saw it.
it's so impactful, right? Like, I think those are things that, like, that is what I love to see on LinkedIn, and that's
Right.
where I like, okay, a person like you that's had so much success, you guys are, so culture driven, and you see that, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, somebody else gets it. Somebody else is like thinks the same way I do."
Mhm.
So I love that. I don't know all the details, so I would love for you
Sure.
to kinda tell that story and why you do what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was inspired by the folks at Chick-fil-A, so I
Okay.
had to tip to those folks. Good chicken sandwich and a good leadership philosophy here that I leverage. So,
Yeah.
full disclosure, in our boardroom, typical kinda big, long boat table, the video, all the artwork and everything, and then the high back black leather chairs like the one I'm sitting in.
Uh-huh.
So, 2 of them, I went on Amazon and I bought these really loud red seat covers.
Okay.
And so I put those seat covers on 2 of the chairs in the front of the room, and I hung a little sign on the wall. And my point was those 2 red chairs represent important constituents that aren't always in the room when we're making decisions there at the board level.
Okay.
1, are team members who aren't present,
Yeah.
and 2 are customers. And so I want us to stay grounded in the fact that those 2 constituencies are not in the room, so the decisions we're making need to consider their perspectives, the implications on them, and it's real because we were having a meeting about 4 months ago. So they've been in there for now probably a year and a half, 2 years. We were in a meeting about 4 months ago, my senior leadership team on a video conference like this. So we weren't even in that room.
Sure.
And somebody made a suggestion. I think it was me actually. I suggested something, and my COO raised his hand and said, "What would the red chairs think about that?" And I was like, "Wow.
Yeah.
All right, we got it."
Yeah.
And again, it was my dumb idea, and
Sure.
he was challenging my thought process by using that visual. So I really felt good about it when it
Yeah.
happened. It's kind of one of those aha moments. And then the last thing I'll say about it is that's probably my highest engaged LinkedIn post,
Is that right?
but I got one guy that replied, "Well, why do you need chairs to remind you to think about your team members and your customers? That seems kind of stupid." And I was
Uh,
just like, "Bless your heart. It's
alright,
all
yeah.
good."
Alright, good, yeah, okay, okay. Yeah, it's funny, man, it's like, yeah, I don't know, yeah, yeah, we could talk about that for days, but,
Mhm.
I love the fact it just even, like, you talking about or you having the idea about a certain topic,
Mhm.
and I love the fact that your COO had the courage to
Yeah.
say, like, speak up, because I think a lotta what that does to me or what that speaks to me is that, okay, they have a culture where everybody's voice matters. There's an
Mhm.
open platform for people to come up and say certain things. Say, "Hey, man, like I'm not sure I agree here." Right? So
Mhm.
kudos to your CEO for having the courage to
Yeah.
say, "Oh man, hey, I don't know if what do you think about the red chairs, or how would our team members and
Yeah.
clients think about that?" And it's like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." As
Mhm.
opposed to, I think, other organizations, they have this hierarchical nature where the CEO or the president is has holds all the cards, and everybody else is just
Mhm.
like a yes man or a yes woman that they don't
Right.
challenge anything.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Um, Another thing didn't make you aware of, this type of question prior to coming in, but, one thing that I've noticed recently is, your um, your ability to share certain things along your faith.
Mhm,
And I just wanted to ask a couple questions of why do you feel like that matters, and
mhm,
how did you overcome the fear to share that? Because I think there's a
yeah,
lot of leaders, and I think there's a lot of individuals out there that
mhm,
share the same sentiment, and they're afraid to post it because they're afraid of the reaction. So
sure.
I know that, just from seeing your social posts, I know that you're a faith based individual,
Mhm.
and I want to learn more about that.
I think it's all grounded in, there's really only one KPI in this existence,
Yeah,
and that is, have we earned, the right to stand before, our ultimate arbiter and, you know, stand behind what we did and the
sure.
life we led.
Yeah.
And even if your faith is grounded in something else, the foundational nature of be a good person,
Hmm.
be good to one another, care for your brothers and your sisters, pay it forward, all those sorts of concepts that, however you want to wrap that. I choose to wrap it in my faith
Yeah.
and the belief that I have in Jesus Christ. Um, but with all that said, I'm a sinner. I'm not.
We all are.
I'm not coming at this from the standpoint of I've got it figured out because I
Yeah.
don't. Um, and so I don't know. It's just, to me, we're getting to the point in a world of AI and everything that's evolving from that. Honesty, realism, I think is a value. I think people appreciate it. What I hope is, though, we can move away from the fact that just because it's different than you, it's a negative.
Mhm.
Let's accept each other's differences. Let's embrace them where we can. Let's discuss them where we must. But otherwise, they are what they are.
Right.
And so by putting that out there, probably early on, there was a little bit of, I'm not sure how this is going to land. But at the end of the day, um, it is who I am.
Yep.
So, but clarifying, I don't have it figured out. Okay, I'm a
No,
flawed human being, and so
Jonathan, I
anything I share is just to try to pay it forward. So,
yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think there's so many, thoughts around that, and I think there's so many individuals that keep that, keep the faith card close to their chest because their
mhm,
fear the fear they have is of reaction, or
right,
if they don't want to offend somebody, or they don't want to, um, ruffle any feathers, and I
mhm,
thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for putting that
for
stuff
sure.
out there because I think there's so many people that gravitate towards that, and there's so many individuals that, appreciate that, including myself, right? It's like, "Oh my gosh, this guy is not afraid to says how he feel to say how he feels and being
Mhm,
authentic," which I think
right,
like you said, there's so many different, um, individuals, companies, whatever that are not authentic, or I feel that are not authentic, or only doing it for the clicks and only doing it to
right,
chase a dollar. Where is that the name of the game? Like, sure, part of it, but at
mhm.
the same time, like, what is our main purpose, and what are we really striving towards? So,
Absolutely.
um,
No, appreciate you asking.
well, Jonathan, this has been great, man. Thank you very much for sharing information about your company. Thank you for sharing information about your culture. That's a to me, it's so near and dear to my heart because that's the purpose of who we are at Veritas, right? Like, does the
Right.
dollar matter? It sure does, but at the same time, we want to create a culture and a community that's far and above the rest, where people feel valued, they come into work energized, they're excited to go and roll up their sleeve and tackle some problems. So, um, yeah, I think the conversation today is definitely authentic, and I appreciate you sharing everything you did, and excited to hear how you guys finish off the year. I know Q4 is a big moment for you, especially with
Yeah.
warehouse space and an uptick in load volumes and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah, I mean, we're all still living through the multi-year freight recession, so
yeah,
that reality has not shifted in any meaningful way. So
right,
we'll see if our silent partners in Washington help us out and get their act together, but I'm not
yeah,
counting on it. So,
yeah, I know.
no, Brian, thank you so much for inviting me to join you on this. I really consider it an honor, and it's just so great that we met because the letters lined up.
I
So
know, that's right.
happy to be a resource, however I could be helpful to you and your team for sure.
No, I appreciate it. And then if anybody would want to reach out to you,
Mhm.
What's kind of the best way to do that?
My only social is really LinkedIn. I try to
Yeah.
stay away from all the other stuff. So Jonathan Brooks. There's a rumor there's going to be a website, jonathaninbrooks.com. I don't
Okay.
know. My marketing team's got all kinds of stuff going on, so
Cool.
that might be out there too if you want to hear the musings of a slow-witted bald man. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best way. So thank you. And wowtrailers.com. That's what really matters.
Wowtrailers.com. Perfect. Well, no, well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, Jonathan. Yeah,
Absolutely.
great conversation and look forward to the next time.
All the best, man.
All right.
See ya.
Thank you.